to start off here just because we're on the heels of a dedication that took place last Saturday, where you had a baseball field named in your honor, Tom Roy UPI Park, I believe is the name.
Yes.
And so I'd just like to start there and just give you an opportunity to just kind of share what you were thinking at the time and go from there, because it really is kind of a lifelong culmination that really...
Yeah. To think I barely made it out of high school. My professors or teachers back then are probably wondering, but to have a college baseball field with my name on it's a little overwhelming. And a number of years ago, I took Dr. Kate up to a White Sox chapel. I was a White Sox chaplain, and I was allowed to bring a guest. He wasn't allowed into the locker rooms, but he sat out in the lobby. And after that day, as we were driving home, he's the one that dropped that on me. What would you think of? And I said, no, there are other people that have coached longer, that have been. And he said, no, I mean, your whole life, da-da-da-da. I said, I just don't feel comfortable with that, Bill. I came back the next year. I said, I still don't feel comfortable about it. And then somewhere in there, unfortunately, Dr. Kadip had a slight stroke, and he had to leave the presidency, and the new president came on, and the next thing I know, it's Tom Roy UPI Park. And that was a little easier to digest because UPI is a ministry, right? And it started in Winona Lake, Indiana, where the college is. So I felt a little more, comfortable, but it's still a little unique driving by saying, what's my dad's name? I'm Tom Roy III. And to see the name up there.
Kind of like seeing your name in lights for the first time, kind of a thing.
Well, they actually put it in lights too, and so my first time seeing it, I drove by at 9 at night, and I thought there was a movie playing. It's a bright light, yeah. And there it was, and I got a little weepy and just pulled off the road, and Karen and I both had a little cry, but tremendous honor, just a little overwhelming. And you were there Saturday. I tried to highlight in my speech the village and the ministry of UPI.
And now he's touched this town again, this village again, with the idea that this is holy ground. Baseball field. This is anointed. This is the place where these young men and others who follow are going to be in competition and learn how to respond and grow and understand what being a godly man looks like. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is so, I don't know, the emotions are all over the place, but I want to thank you folks at Grace College for this huge, huge honor you bestowed on our entire family. And with all humility, I say thank you.
Because that's a big part of why I'm up there. And my heart is that those players become true disciples. Much like with UPI, it was to reach, teach, train for the purpose of sending professional baseball players. I think when you have a school like Grace, you have a good pool of men already that have faith. Now it's just a matter of trying to encourage them, teach them the word so that they have not necessarily a comfort level, but at least an ability to share the gospel.
Yeah, so we're really kind of leading off with the biggest honor of honors probably you've received, at least from my perspective. Maybe you think differently, but for those people that aren't maybe going to see the actual podcast, maybe we could do kind of a Reader's Digest version, if you could, just a quick synopsis of, getting drafted at 17 years of age by the San Francisco Giants, and then just kind of bring us back up to this point. And then what we'll do is we will highlight some of those speakers as we talk that talk about their experience
Sure.
in your ministry and just knowing you over the years.
Yeah. Well, I grew up oldest of 8 kids in a little village outside of Milwaukee, just about 15 miles north, called Grafton, which I'm very proud to be a citizen of, or I still see that as home, even though I've lived in Indiana for 50 years. Every time I go back, it's like, yes. Grew up in a 1,200 square foot home, 1 bathroom. So with 8 kids, Tom, Tim, Terry, Tracy, Todd, Tammy, Trudy, Tony, it was unique at times, let's just say that. So I was your typical geeky kid, just goofing around, and did a lot of goofing around. But I was kind of, and you're not going to understand this, but an introvert until probably I got into high school. I typically wore all black. By the way, I'm wearing all black again today, but just sat in the back of the class. And when I got to high school, I grew about a foot from my 8th grade year. So the basketball coaches were, interested, at least trying to work with me. So my identity at that point became sports. And had a successful basketball career in high school. And the reality was I loved baseball. And like you mentioned, when I was 17, I got drafted. Now, that was very unique from Wisconsin, first of all, to get drafted back then. That was 1967. It was a tremendous honor. But one of the reasons was we didn't start baseball till like June 9th, and the draft was June 4th, so nobody even knew about me. And then I had a good year, and they signed me as a free agent. Didn't make it, so it's kind of hopefully failing forward, but it was what God used as a springboard to allow me to get back into locker rooms. A real quick overview. I coached at Grace College as a pitching coach for 4 years. Then I went to be the first head coach at Tippecanoe Valley High School for 3 years. Huntington University had me come down there, and I was honored to coach there. I was the pitching coach there also for 3 or 4 years. And then Grace came back and said, why don't you be our head coach? So that was the extent of my coaching, which I thought was going to be my full-time career. But the Holy Spirit put it on my heart to start this ministry called Unlimited Potential, to reach, teach, train for the purpose of sending professional baseball players. It started with a clinic in Milwaukee. The Milwaukee Brewers were brand new, and the Billy Graham Association was doing a baseball clinic. A friend of mine, Dave, called me and said, hey, they're doing this. Why don't you help them out? So I called them, and they said, we don't know what we're doing with a baseball clinic. It's just they're a hot team right now in the city. So sure enough, I showed up and did this clinic. 700 people showed up. But before that, the greatest honor of my life happened.
Well, we have a picture of that, don't we?
We have a picture from the Billy Graham
Yeah.
Association,
Okay.
to document that really happened.
And you say that was in
Milwaukee.
Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
This is at the old...
Which is appropriate because that's where you're from,
Yeah.
that state.
This is the old county stadium. And when we did the clinic afterward, their head man, I think his name was Ron Adema, he said, you need to think about doing this full time. We don't do it. And then he gave me some tickets to sit on stage with Dr. Graham. And being a young kid, I got to get going. So I didn't go. So he sent me this picture as a thank you for doing the clinic. But also, it's kind of neat because this stadium's no longer there. And like you said, it was back in my hometown.
Yeah.
But prior to that, I want to talk about what you said about my greatest honor is being chosen by Christ to be one of his kids. Because I was not a believer when I signed. And being released is what brought me to my knees. And I was searching. And that lady upstairs called Karen, who we've been married 55 years, shared the gospel with me, came to faith. And that was the precursor to all this stuff.
Then it started to all
talking
make
about.
sense then.
Yeah.
In terms of, the plan that God had for
Yeah,
you.
that he gave me a baseball, not to play for the San Francisco Giants, but to be able to identify with pro athletes, pro baseball in particular, and to have some kind of credibility to get into the locker rooms and that.
And this is the power of encouragement because you were really encouraged
Big
to
time.
start that ministry, that UPI ministry.
Yeah, Ron Adema is the one. There was another guy that was the chaplain of all things for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that invited me to a luncheon in Chicago. They were playing the Bears. And quite honestly, the reason I went is because Boyd Dowler, a former Packer, was a coach with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I thought I might meet him. That's not what happened. That guy, after the meal, looked at me and said, "When are you going to quit nickel and diming it for God, step out on faith and do this?" Meaning these baseball
Something big.
clinics.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And the association of Billy Graham, I mean, he's
He was
probably,
great integrity, and in God's economy, my mentor, Norm Wilhelmy, lives in Montreat where the Grahams live. And every year I would get an audience with the chairman of the board of the Billy Graham Association. And so I owe them a lot in terms of forming our own board. And when I had deep questions that even our board was wrestling with, I would meet with them. And it just was a God thing.
that's neat story. And you received the encouragement there, and then, of course, we're going to learn more about how you were such an encouragement to so many as we show clips from the dedication. I know Mickey Weston talked a lot about that in his, so we'll show a clip of Mickey here right now.
Tom, we remain true to the vision that you established through the Spirit's leading back in 1980. I count you, Tom, as a visionary, a discipler, a mentor, an advisor, a practical joker, not always practical. An incredible encourager and a blessed friend to so many. It's really in the character of your life that I'm most impressed.
So next, moving along, let's is anything else come to mind in terms of that Reader's Digest synopsis?
Well, there were various people, and of all things, because I don't know if you know, but Seattle is a pretty long distance from Winona Lake, Indiana. But God had put 3 or 4 players on that team, and I don't want to drop names, but many of the people watching this might know some of them. They really embraced me and embraced the ministry. And when you get players like that that believe in you, one of them gave me he was Rookie of the Year, and he gave me his glove and signed Proverbs 3:5 on it. That's why I have this glove here. This is a real stone of remembrance too, because obviously those guys have gone on. They're no longer playing. But it was a time when, I needed to have some people that spoke positive faith into me, but also to the other ball players, because you have to have trust. Because the ball player, he may not say it out loud, but why do you want to know me? Meaning a ball player. Do you want something? Do you want money, an autograph? And I think my motives were pure. Well, these guys really embraced me, and everywhere they went, I would go visit them, and they'd introduce me to other players, and it just kind of, so that was a kind of a stone of remembrance also for me. Yeah.
That's neat. Sounds good. What else do we have down there while we're?
Well, here's when
thinking
I
of-
signed. Just so you know, I
That's the
used to
signing.
I used to be young. This verifies, even though I got released, that I did get signed by the San Francisco Giants. And me talking about, well, it'll probably take me 3 years to get to the big leagues. Yeah, I told you I wasn't a believer. And this was a team I
So you
played
had
for, the Saukville Saints. This was not my high school
So you
team.
had a really good self-esteem, is what you're saying?
I had insecurity, so I put it off as
Oh, is that what it
confidence.
was?
Oh, sure. I was a
Okay.
skinny little kid, I was
Yeah, but that had to
17
be
years old.
Somewhat of a kind of a head
Yeah,
job in that,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
young.
Yeah.
And you're
Well, and then you
playing
get
the
to
big
spring
leagues?
training and you're with a bunch of men. And
Yeah.
that was an eye opener, but a tremendous honor. And again, it may have, I've scouted just very, very, very part-time for 3 different teams. And I think all of this parlays into what happened here. First of all, what happened with Jesus, obviously. Man makes his plans, but God directs his steps, it says in Proverbs. But then, as you're asking, I just pulled some of this stuff out, and you just see how he wove this into something way bigger than a baseball coach and college team in Winona Lake, Indiana. That's why I mentioned the other day, this is holy ground, meaning that baseball field. Things have happened in this little village that don't happen in villages. And I mentioned it, Bethlehem, you have, some pretty cool stuff happened there. I'm not saying it rivals that, but just about every 10, 20, 30 years, something big, God touched his hand on this little village. And so all of this worked together.
And when you were in Huntington coaching, is that where your paths crossed with the Hank Aaron?
The Hank Aaron. Yes. Jim Wilson was the head coach, and I was kind of like the circus director. I was, the marketing. We didn't have social media and all of that, but Jim and I were brainstorming, and I'll give him the credit, basically saying Indiana is known for basketball. We have to do something to get baseball on the map. And so I said, not knowing any of these people, I'll get in touch with Stan Musial, Ernie Banks, and Hank Aaron and see if they'll come and speak. So I wrote to all three of them. Two of them responded, and the one that said yes was Hank Aaron. So there was this big snowstorm, I think it was in 78, couldn't get out of the house, so I didn't have to go to work that day, and the phone rang. We had a phone on the wall with a long cord, and Karen answered it, and she said, "It's for you, Tom." I go, "Who is it?" She goes, "Hank Aaron." I go, "Yeah, right." I didn't get out of my chair. And she goes, "Are you going to get this phone? There's a man on the phone named Hank." And it was. And he was very kind. He said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he gave a price, which was fair. And the next thing you know, I'm picking him up at the airport in Fort Wayne. And I grew up in Milwaukee, right? Milwaukee area. This was my hero. And I'm at the airport now.
Hero. He was my hero, too. I remember him playing.
Fairly good player.
Fairly good.
Now he's in my car, and I'm supposed to drive him to the airport, and I'll try to be quick on this, but I was so nervous, I didn't know where I was. I was just driving, and finally, after about 40 minutes, he goes, "Where's this hotel?" And I said, "I have no idea. In fact, I don't know where we are." And I did what I never do. I stopped at a gas station. Well, I was somewhere in Ohio, which is not...
before GPSs, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah. And I didn't believe in maps anyway. So I was totally,
man, right?
totally
I
embarrassed.
know. I think I know where I'm going.
Yeah. And it's a sign of weakness to ask, right? So I thought, what the heck? I'm just going to share my faith with them. And it developed into quite a 2 or 3 days of talking about Jesus, and he was broken, and it was really cool. So about a week later, I get a package in the mail, and there's a postcard in there. I think it said, "You made a big hit with my boss." It was from his secretary. He sent a bobblehead. He sent a bunch of other stuff. It was really cool. Next thing I know, I got invited to spring training to just meet with him. He invited Grace College to play the Atlanta Braves in a spring training game.
That's cool.
Yeah, we were horrible, but the guys were all fired up.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like 3 days before, there was a strike, so we didn't have to play them. But all of that, he wrote me a letter. In fact, I have these things
Yeah,
here.
I was going to...
When we had our daughter, it's a big, heavy thing. I try to put this stuff in frames because I will lose it. You've already seen my desk and what that looks like. But these are different letters and things I got from him. Here's the thing from his secretary, Emma Lou Boss. You made a hit with my boss. And some of these are personal letters. This one in particular is interesting because after our time together, Hank asked me to start a business with him, Hank Aaron Baseball School, and to take it all around the country. And I was fired up, right? And so I thought that was the direction I was going to go. And then I got this letter.
This was just before UPI actually.
Yeah, I was at Huntington still. UPI started about 2 years later. So I almost went that direction until I got this letter from his lawyer saying, "Who are you? How much money are you worth?" And I had to say, "I have like $11 in the bank." And he said, "Well, I don't think this is going to work." Mr. Aaron spent his whole life building his reputation.
Attorneys have a way of being killjoys, don't they?
Yeah. So anyway, I put this in a frame, and my daughter, who's mentioned in one of these, will get these when I pass. But
Oh, that's neat.
I found that if I don't put them in frames, I'm going to lose them. And these were too valuable to lose. And then Hank passed away. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was very kind to me, very
Yeah.
kind.
And he had, what, the most home runs for
Until-
a long time.
Yeah, he broke Babe Ruth, and that was a whole deal, the story. But the importance of what I'm telling you isn't that I have personal letters from Hank Aaron. When I saw the gospel touch him at the deepest level of his heart, that got me thinking, so if it's
If I
not
can
me,
influence
yeah, not
somebody like
me,
this.
if the Holy Spirit can touch a man who's the greatest ever at that time to play the game, who are these other players? Because I had this, impression of them that they were almost superhuman. Well, I'm meeting at that point the greatest of all times and the gospel. And so I realized that throughout my entire life, it wasn't me. It had nothing to do with me. It had to do, I was the postman. I was delivering the letter. This really, and this was before UPI was even in my mind, was a big stepping stone.
Yeah, I mean, talk about encouragement. This is probably the next big jolt or dose of encouragement that you received.
Yeah. I've received a lot over the years. I've received a lot of the other too. But
Yeah, well, haven't we all?
yeah.
But yeah, that's so neat, Tom. Thanks for sharing that.
I need to make it bigger. I had one other thing I wanted to show you because
Yes.
UPI started in my basement with, as Mickey mentioned, on a little table with a phone. And it started out being clinics in the U.S. and then somebody challenged us to start doing them overseas. And actually the first clinic we did overseas was in Puerto Rico. But prior to that, I went as a pitching coach to a number of different countries, and I just happened to find this. Again, I was much younger. And this was in Skellefteå, which was the furthest north baseball's ever been played. This is in Sweden. And this was an article in their paper. I have no idea what it says because it's in Swedish, but it was kind of another one of those stepping stones to say, okay, this ministry is going into the locker room, but now we're taking it out around the world. And this was a pretty fun experience, you know, to do that. But then we've been to about 60, 68 countries, taking professional baseball players, teaching the game, and then sharing Jesus. And there's a glove over there that when I say that, we had some, all right? This glove was given me by Alvin Davis, who was the American League Rookie of the Year. And I say that because the Mariners had a big part, the players on the Mariners, of the things that happened with UPI. So he took me all the way out there.
So these are these things are special to you.
Yeah.
So we want to incorporate that. Got it. Okay. Before you remove that, I have one thing I do want to say.
Okay.
Speaking of God's blessings, He also blessed you with hair,
Yeah.
and you still have it.
It's a little lighter. It's Arctic blonde, I call it. Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin, so this is not white. This is Arctic blonde.
And they were mentioning it on Saturday too.
The
waving
flow.
hair.
Yeah.
And I saw you. It was funny.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a
Thank you.
a lighthearted comment.
Well, because of and I can't think, Tim, I think it was 83, the U.S. Olympic Committee introduced baseball as an Olympic sport. So all of a sudden, all these countries around the world wanted to learn the game. And of course, we had baseball players that were at the highest level that would go with us. So we were invited into China and started working with those people. I think we were the first group. If you recall, back in those days, it was pretty tough to get into China. That was a tremendous trip, but also the USSR, which most people know as Russia now. We went in right before the wall came down, and they had us in to teach baseball in January. I think it was 20 or 30 below zero. And they took the gym of the Moscow State University and put a net around it inside, and we had the Red Army team, and we did baseball clinics for them. And since then, they've become kind of a power for the mini region, not the highest level like Japan, Australia, US, but the next level down. And I just wanted to show this was one of the first gloves they made. Now, this was made in Leningrad, but they gave it to me, and I believe it's made out of pig skin. And I don't know how they caught the ball in that thing. This one compared to this one, there's a little bit of difference.
And it's usually made out of cowhide.
Yeah, it's usually made out of more supple, but that'll last forever. I've had that, since 1985 maybe. And I've never used it because it's not very good, but it replicates a glove. And it was just a little, again, stone of remembrance for me as you were talking about things that that trip to the USSR, which was really unique, as was the China trip. Mickey now is taking teams into other parts of the world that Christianity is not necessarily applauded. And so, Russia or the USSR and China, we had to come up with a different strategy. And basically, their governments, if people ask you a question, you can answer them, but you cannot be proactive about it. Mickey does that today in some of the Middle Eastern countries in different places. If we never talk about Jesus, just the aroma of Christ, hopefully, and that typically happens every trip. They go, something's different about you guys, because they're, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, long suffering. And I don't think they're typically used to that out of athletes that are high level. So, but Russia, man, that was one of the first.
So how risky is that? From a security standpoint.
Yeah,
You have to. That's why you have to.
There have been other
approach it a little
groups that have been
differently.
jailed for the American groups that have gone to those countries in particular, especially China, that have spent a night or two in jail for handing out materials or whatever. So it's serious business. And we got to meet some of the underground church, and there's a thriving Christian movement, but it's underground. Now, in Russia, that's changed a little bit. I don't know about some of the theology of their churches, but there are many, many more open churches now than there was back then. So it was pretty tense. And to get players to go on those trips, you had to get guys that were warriors to say, yeah, we'll take it on, let's go.
That's great. I want to show another clip, but I want to set it up first. We were talking about Hank Aaron just a little bit ago, and how that was such a milestone in terms of propelling you to where you went with UPI. But unless you have a strong family, it's very hard to do to be effective in ministry. And we know that was very clear Saturday when your wife talked, and we'll show a clip of that.
Like Chad said, we absolutely believe in the mission of Grace College and in the mission of Grace Baseball. The program is not about a building. It's about building young men to be kingdom builders. I want to spend just a minute speaking to the athletes, because I want you to know a little bit about what Tom will not tell you. We believe in you guys. We really believe in you. And sorry, I get a little emotional, but I want you to know that he prays for you. And he has been praying over you. I've seen him walk the trails. I've seen him walk the outfield. He prays for you by name, by position. He believes in you. He believes in your future. He believes that there's a purpose for you being here. And our prayer is that during your time here, that God will confirm to you his calling on your life, and that you will have confidence in the ministry you have here, and as you leave here, that your lives can have an unlimited impact in your world. So it's not about a building. It's about you guys. It's about what God is doing in your life. And I'm going to close with Psalm 137:1. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain that build it.
And we also want to show a clip of your daughters and how that was probably reflected from what they saw from your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so we definitely want to show a clip from that as well.
When you've spent time with him, you realize he never really wants to talk about himself. He invests time into every person he encounters, whether they are the superstars of society or people that nobody else sees or recognizes. I know this day is surreal to you, Dad. You argue not to have your name on that sign. You would much rather it just say Jesus. And Mom, I want to honor you because most of us, actually none of us would be here today had you not shared the gospel of Jesus with Dad all those years ago. And then you held down the fort as he traveled, especially that year that he traveled close to 300 days. I remember, Mom, all that you were and the encouragement that you were not only to Lindsay and me, but to him. I'm sure there are days Dad wanted to throw in the towel, but you understood the cost and the call on our family, and I just want to honor you for that. Mom, we love you. And Dad, we love you. We've not only watched you coach, champion, and shepherd people with the love of Jesus since as early as we can remember, we've lived it as your daughters. You're the real deal, and you're so worthy of this honor today. I think most would say that they feel like they've encountered the heart of Jesus when they've been around you. Yeah, this isn't fake. This has never been a job to him. It's who he is as a dad, as a grandpa, soon to be great grandpa, as a coach in our living rooms, in random towns, coffee shops, and in dugouts. And we've all been shaped by that. And that's why we're here. This all means nothing to Dad if it doesn't raise up disciples who then disciple others. He cares that lives are transformed by the power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. This is the family of God, and this is the kingdom legacy we all sit under today. And how fitting that the Tom Roy UPI Park field would be located at Grace College, the very word grace that means the empowering presence and favor of God, and the place where God's power rested upon a young man's weakness and propelled him to introduce the world to Jesus through the vehicle of baseball. 2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me."
So, because frankly, a lot of successful men sacrifice their families to be successful, and their kids don't like them.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Hearing them talk.
Yeah.
So,
Karen, really included them in the ministry when I would leave, and they would pray for me. And this, she really did a spectacular job.
Say a few words. When Tom first shared with me that he was considering full-time ministry, and we talked about it, I just felt very strongly, I sensed that I was also called, and that my calling was different from Tom's, that I had a specific calling to make it possible for him to do what he did. Meaning I had to make sure that things were going smoothly at home. Many times I was a single parent, but because I knew I was called and I had a purpose, it was not something that was a burden. I'm not saying it was easy, but it didn't feel like a burden. I didn't feel like I was forgotten by God. And God gave me many opportunities during those years of raising children and managing a home by myself to be involved in local ministries in my church and in my community. And I'm so grateful for that. When God called wives to be a helper for their husbands, That word helper in Hebrew is Ezer. And the only time that's used of women is in Genesis. Every other time that word is used, it's referring to God and the kind of help that God gives. So I felt like my calling was to be everything that he needed, that I could give as a wife. So supporting and believing in what he was doing was probably the biggest thing. For him to know that I believed in what he was doing, I think was valuable. And then anything that I could physically do or emotionally do to support him. In Ephesians 5:21, it says to submit to one another. And we believe that that means to come under the mission. Submission means to come beneath the mission and hold up the mission of the other. So that's what we've tried to do in our marriage. And it's looking back, it's been a crazy, wild ride, and it keeps going, but it's been my joy to be his wife.
Very well put. Thank you so much for sharing.
And it was tough. I mean, there were many times I would leave and be crying on the plane because I know I was going to China. When I went there, I'd stay for 4 weeks or whatever. I'd stay in the Middle East or the Asia area.
Girls were little. We took Tom to the airport and we knew that he was going to be gone for an extended time. And I looked at them and I could see the tears welling up in their eyes. They knew that they were going to miss their daddy. And rather than divert their attention, I sensed that they needed to have a good cry. So we just all curled up on the bed and cried together. And that was healing for us.
So, yeah, you needed to have that strong force at home. And there was one time when I was in Bulgaria that it really hit me, and I was under spiritual attack, and I realized I'd been on the road a little too much, that Karen was bearing the brunt of all of this, and it really changed how I looked at it, because I was on the road 300 days a year for a year or two in there, and that's
pretty much gone for a couple of years.
Yeah. And I really, 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 really missed them. But because of her encouragement, and she led me to Christ. So that was the other thing. I went on a date with her, and when she brought a Bible out, and I'm like, what the heck? And she shared the gospel. And about a year later, I came to faith. So
I have is a trip I was able to go on to South Korea. The board of UPI decided that it was valuable for each of our daughters and for me to go on one trip a year with Tom because of the extent of his travel. There was a time that he was traveling 10 months out of the year. And when I was on a trip in South Korea, I remember, and this is something that God did in my life personally, I received a call from my parents who were staying with our young daughters. And my youngest was up all night sick. And I was halfway around the world. And as a mom, everything in me wanted to leave that instant and go home. And every mom can relate to that. It was impossible. There were no flights. By the time I would find a flight and get there, days would have gone by. And the missionary wife there, the couple that we were working with, she told me, she shared a verse with me, and I know the verse, but I can't tell you exactly where it is, possibly Genesis, but it's a question. The Lord asks, is the arm of the Lord too short? My arm was certainly too short to reach around the globe, but his arm is not. And it taught me a lesson that whether I'm there or not, I need to place my children in God's care.
She's played a huge part. And our two daughters are just spectacular. I think they saw how their mother prayed and read the Bible and studied the Bible. And both of them are Bible teachers. And couldn't be more proud of them and our grandkids.
Oh, that's great to see, I'm sure.
So I get the name up there, but really, like you're saying, and like a lot of situations, right? It's Walt Disney gets the name, Roy Disney no one knows about, you know, and he was the one that kept it together.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have happened without him.
Right.
Yeah. I learned that. I read a book called What About Bob? And but anyway, I digress. But it's such a good point. There's always somebody encouraging, whether it's a spouse or a wife, or a brother in the case of Disney. So
well, then there's always too the local church. You know, I was gone a lot, and a lot of our daughter's friends, they met at youth group. Now, they didn't all stay together, and I'm sure they both had, and in fact, Amy talked about a little rebellious time. They want to find out who they are. Don't hear that they were perfect. Not at all. None of us were perfect. But yeah. But
thanks to God's grace, though. It's sufficient.
Exactly.
Sufficient.
And they, you know, I would pray
to people listening.
I would pray for, back then this term meant maybe something different, but significant others, for our daughters especially, that they would hear voices other than even ours through their youth group or through somebody that they met, maybe that wasn't in a youth group, that filled that gap. And God was so faithful. And it's been kind of cool.
That's neat. Well, as we think about wrapping things up, does anything else come to your mind that you want to communicate, or from the crowd back here?
Our audience, our live audience,
our live audience,
yeah.
Want to ask a question or something that comes to your mind that?
I think that, you know, retiring, first of all, I left UPI in 2019. I'm still on the board, but I've never retired from it. It's in your heart, right? And Mickey's done a great job with it. But it doesn't stop your ministry. And so for any of those out there that are old like me, don't get in that Christian RV and take off in the sunset. Try to look around and say, how can I use my experiences?
And you reinvented yourself with...
Yeah, we got Shepherd Coach and a couple other things, But part of the heartache, and I haven't shared this a whole lot, is a lot of my good friends are missionaries all around the world that I'll never see again. Because I would go every year and see them and spend a week or two, and we became really close because hopefully I encouraged them. A couple of them have died. I mentioned Bartimus Wasinga. He's no longer with us. Don Dell in British Columbia has passed away. He was a very close friend. As close as you can be when you see him once or twice a year, right? Well, I don't see those people anymore, you know, but God has, and this is the encouragement, has brought others around me that my daughter Amy, in fact, said, Dad, I think your ministry now is going to be more local than international like it was before. And I embrace that. So I encourage people watching this, as you get to the end of your career, it's not over till you take your last breath. And to just ask God to bring people into your life. And for me now, it's that Grace baseball team in part. And I have a couple other things, Shepherd Coach and a couple other companies I work with to hopefully bring spiritual light to their foundation or their workplace.
So, I mean, besides retirement is overrated, right? As long as you can move, as long as you're breathing, as you mentioned, we all should.
That's another thing, man. Can you imagine the miles Mickey and myself? And I mean, I've had some bad accidents where I've been hit by semis and stuff, you know, which causes that. But
yeah, we talked about that in the podcast.
But the safety.
Watch the podcast after this.
The safety for all those years, 45 years of traveling the world And here we are, we're still around. So every day is a gift. And when I wake up, I try to thank God for, hey, another day, another gift. What's out there? What do we have today? And I challenge all the people watching this to, that wasn't always how I lived my life. You know, it's like, okay, what can I do next? It's way more fun to say, okay, God, what's next? Just bring divine appointments. It's a fun way.
It sounds trite, but God is a God of second chances.
Yeah.
And third chances.
Yep.
Fourth chances if you need it.
The Yankees aren't, but God is. Yeah.
That's right.
I remember one of their players had made a couple errors, and the owner, George Steinbrenner, said something like 2 errors human, 3 errors is a trip to AAA. You know, God isn't like that.
He had the best quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
Again.
Thank you.
And again, I appreciate having you in my life all these years, especially and more recently. And I know you're an encourager to many, and I'm appreciative and honored to be one of those. Thank you.
But thank you.
Only one can save. Jesus is his name. Christ alone.